A simple yoga session accidentally taught aliens a martial art part, one the spaceship called Bright Star moved slowly through the dark of space. It was a big ship, built by humans and aliens together. The aliens were called the Valori. They had lived in peace with humans for 20 years now. This ship was special because both species worked together on it. HFY woke up early, just like she did every day. She was 28 years old and worked as a plant scientist on the ship. Her job was to grow food and keep the gardens healthy. But before she started work each morning, she did something else. She did yoga. She walked to the observation deck. This was a big room with large windows. Through the windows, she could see stars and planets far away. It was a beautiful and quiet place. Hana liked to do her yoga here because it made her feel calm. She put down her mat on the floor. It was a simple blue mat, worn from years of use. She had brought it from Earth. It reminded her of home. Hana stood at the front of her mat and took a deep breath. She raised her arms above her head and stretched. Then she bent forward and touched her toes. She moved slowly and carefully. Each movement flowed into the next one. This was called a sun salutation. She had learned it when she was just a teenager. She did not know that someone was watching her. Telos stood in the doorway. He was a Valori, tall and thin with pale blue skin that was almost see-through. He had 4 arms instead of 2, and his bones were hollow like a bird. The Valori were gentle creatures. They were smart but not strong. A fall that would only bruise a human could break a Valori's bones. Telos watched Hana with great interest. His large purple eyes did not blink. He had never seen anything like this before. Hana moved into a new pose. She stood on one leg and placed her other foot against her inner thigh. Her arms went up above her head, palms pressed together. She stood perfectly still, balanced like a tree in the wind. Telos felt his breath catch. How was this possible? He could never stand on one leg like that. If he tried, he would fall and hurt himself. But Hana stood there calmly, as if it was the easiest thing in the world. She held the pose for a long time. Then she moved into another one. She spread her legs wide and bent one knee. Her arms stretched out to the sides, strong and steady. Her face showed focus and determination. Telos knew what this pose was called. He had studied human languages and culture. This was called warrior pose. The name made him nervous. Warrior. That was a word for someone who fights. Hana finished her practice about 30 minutes later. She lay flat on her back with her eyes closed. Her breathing was slow and even. Then she sat up and saw Telos standing there. She smiled at him. Hana had a warm smile that made everyone feel welcome. "Good morning, Telos," she said. "How long have you been standing there?" "I am sorry," Telos said. His voice was soft and musical, like most Valori voices. "I did not mean to watch without permission. I was walking to the science lab, and I saw you through the door. I could not look away." "That's okay," Hana said. She stood up and rolled her mat. "Were you curious about what I was doing?" "Yes," Telos admitted. "Very curious. I have never seen a human do this before." "What is it called?" "It's called yoga," Hana explained. "It's a kind of exercise. It helps me stretch my muscles and calm my mind. I've been doing it since I was young." Telos nodded slowly. He was thinking hard about what he had seen. The poses looked difficult. Some of them looked almost impossible. And that name, warrior pose, he could not forget that name. "The pose where you stood on one leg," he said. "That requires great balance and strength. Your muscles were shaking, but you did not fall." "That's tree pose," Hana said. "It took me years to get good at it. At first, I fell down all the time." "And the one where you spread your legs and arms? That is called warrior, yes?" Hana nodded. "Warrior too. There are several warrior poses in yoga. Several warrior poses. Talos felt a chill run through his thin body. He had heard stories about humans. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories. Humans were strange and frightening creatures. They came from a dangerous planet where everything tried to kill them. They had evolved to be strong and tough. They could heal from injuries that would kill other species. They could run for hours without stopping. They could survive in heat and cold that would destroy Valori bodies. And now, Talos had learned that they trained their bodies every morning. They practiced poses named after warriors. They conditioned their muscles and their balance and their focus. "Thank you for explaining," Talos said politely. "I must go to the lab now." He walked away quickly, his mind racing with thoughts. He needed to tell the others about this. To tell the others about this. The other Valori on the ship needed to know what he had discovered. Hana watched him go. She thought he had acted a little strange, but she did not think too much about it. She had work to do in the gardens. The tomatoes needed checking, and the wheat was almost ready to harvest. She had no idea that Talos was about to start writing a research report about her. She had no idea that this report would be titled Human Combat Training, the Art of Yoga. And she had no idea that this simple misunderstanding would change everything. But that is what happened. And it all started with a simple yoga session on a quiet morning in space. A simple yoga session accidentally taught aliens a martial art. Part 2. Talos worked all night on his report. He sat in his small room and typed on his computer. His 4 hands moved quickly across the keyboard. He wrote down everything he had seen. He described each pose in great detail. He explained how Hana's muscles had worked. He noted how long she held each position. By morning, he had written 50 pages. He sent the report to the other Valori on the ship. There were 12 of them in total. They all read the report before breakfast. And they all came to the same conclusion. The humans were training for combat. Every single day. "This explains so much," said Bora, a young Valori scientist. She was reading the report on her tablet while eating her morning meal. "We always wondered how humans stayed so strong. Now we know. They practice fighting every morning. Look at the names of these poses," said another Valori named Duri. He pointed at the screen. "Warrior 1, Warrior 2, Warrior 3. These are not names for peaceful exercise. These are names for battle training." The Valori gathered in their meeting room to discuss what they had learned. They were all very interested and a little bit scared. "We should observe more," Talos suggested. "We should watch Hana every morning. We should record everything she does. This could be very important for understanding humans." The others agreed. And so began the secret observation of Hana's yoga practice. Every morning, 2 or 3 Valori would stand near the observation deck. They tried to look casual. They pretended to be walking to work or checking the ship's systems. But really, they were watching Hana through the windows. They took notes. They made drawings. They recorded videos when they thought no one was looking. Hana noticed them after a few days. She thought it was sweet. The Valori were such curious creatures. They wanted to learn about everything. She waved at them sometimes, and they waved back nervously. "I think they like watching me exercise," she told her friend Myra one evening. Mira was also a human scientist on the ship. She studied space rocks and minerals. "They're probably just curious," Myra said. "Valori are always curious about humans. We're so different from them." "I know," Hana laughed. "Talos asked me about yoga last week. He seemed really interested." Myra thought about this. She had noticed the Valori acting strange lately. They whispered to each other when humans walked past. They looked at the humans with new expressions on their faces. Mira could not tell if it was respect or fear. A week later, Myra discovered the truth. She was using one of the ship's computers to do research. She accidentally opened a folder that belonged to the Valori science team. Inside, she found Tellus's report. Human combat training, the art of yoga, she read aloud. Her eyes went wide. A comprehensive study of offensive and defensive fighting techniques. She read the whole report. Her mouth fell open. Then she started to laugh. She ran to find her husband, Dong-Su. He was an engineer who fixed machines on the ship. She found him in the engine room, covered in grease. "You have to read this," she said, shoving her tablet at him. "The Valori think yoga is a martial art." Dong-Su wiped his hands and took the tablet. He read the first few pages. His face showed confusion, then surprise, then amusement. "They think tree pose is balance training for combat," he said slowly. "They think downward dog is a defensive position." "Keep reading," Myra said. "It gets better." Dong-Su scrolled down. They measured how long Hana can hold warrior pose. They calculated how much force her muscles can produce. They compared it to Valori strength and decided that she could defeat 20 Valori in hand-to-hand combat. 20! Mira was laughing so hard that tears came to her eyes. Hana could defeat 20 Valori. "To be fair," Dong-Su said thoughtfully, "she probably could. Not because of yoga, just because humans are stronger." "Should we tell them the truth?" Myra asked. "Should we explain that yoga is just stretching?" Dong-Su thought about this for a long moment. "I don't know," he said finally. "Would they believe us? And is it really hurting anything? The Valori already respect humans. This just makes them respect us a little more. But it's based on a lie," Mira pointed out. "Or at least a misunderstanding. Is it though?" Dong-Su scratched his chin. "Yoga does require strength and balance. It does take years to master. The Valori aren't wrong that it's impressive. They're just wrong about why we do it." Myra was not sure what to think. She decided to wait and see what happened. Maybe the Valori would figure out the truth on their own. Or maybe it would never matter. But life has a way of making things matter when you least expect it. 3 months passed. The bright star traveled through many star systems. The humans in Valori worked together peacefully. The Valori continued to watch Hana's yoga sessions. Hana continued to wave at them and smile. And then the ship arrived at Relay Station 9. This was a large space station where many ships came to buy supplies and trade goods. It was supposed to be safe, neutral territory. Ships from all species were welcome there, but not every species was friendly. And not every situation could be solved with peace. The Valori were about to face their greatest fear. And the only thing that might save them was a misunderstanding about yoga. A simple yoga session accidentally taught aliens a martial art. Part 3. Relay Station 9 was huge and busy. Ships of all shapes and sizes floated around it like fish around a coral reef. Inside, thousands of aliens walked through wide hallways and open markets. They bought food, sold goods, and shared news from across the galaxy. The crew of the Bright Star had 3 days to spend on the station. They needed to buy fuel and supplies. They also needed rest after months of traveling through empty space. Hadashna was excited to explore. She walked through the markets with wide eyes, looking at strange fruits and beautiful fabrics. Everything was new and wonderful to her. Tellus walked with her. He had become her friend over the past months. He still believed that she was a trained warrior, but he also knew she was kind and gentle. This confused him sometimes, but he liked her company. "Look at these crystals," Hana said, pointing at a vendor's table. The crystals were purple and blue, glowing softly in the station's lights. "They're so pretty. They come from the ice moons of Sector 7, Tellus explained. The Valori use them for meditation. They help calm the mind. Hana picked up a small crystal and held it to the light. "Maybe I should get one for my yoga practice," Tellus felt a shiver of respect run through his body. Even here, far from the ship, the human thought about her combat training. Such dedication. Such discipline. They spent an hour walking through the market. Then Hana said she wanted to look at fabric for new clothes. Tellus was not interested in fabric. He decided to explore a different part of the station. "I will meet you back at the ship for dinner," he told her. "Please be careful." "You too," Hana said with a smile. Tellus walked toward the food section of the market. He was looking for a special spice that Valori used in their tea. He was so focused on his search that he did not notice the danger until it was too late. 3 large figures stepped out of a dark hallway. They blocked his path. Tellus stopped walking and felt fear grip his heart. These were Krath. The Krath were massive creatures with gray, rough skin like stone. They had small eyes and big mouths full of sharp teeth. Their bodies were covered with natural armor, like the shell of a beetle. They were strong, mean, and they hated the Valori. "Well, well," said the biggest Krath. His voice was deep and ugly. "Look what we found. A little glass bone, all alone." Tellus tried to step backward, but 2 more Krath appeared behind him. He was trapped. "Please," Tellus said. His voice shook with fear. "I do not want any trouble. I am just looking for spices." The Krath laughed. It was not a nice sound. "Trouble finds you anyway," the leader said. He cracked his huge knuckles. The sound echoed through the hallway. "Your Federation protects you in space. But here on the station, things are different. Accidents happen." Tellus knew what this meant. The Krath wanted to hurt him. They wanted to break his hollow bones and leave him bleeding on the floor. And there was nothing he could do to stop them. He looked around for help. There were other aliens in the hallway, but they all looked away. Nobody wanted to fight the Krath. Nobody wanted to get involved. Tae Young, the human security officer from the Bright Star, was shopping 3 hallways away. He heard shouting and started walking toward the sound. But he was too far. He would never arrive in time. Tellus felt his legs shaking. He was going to die here, far from home, in a dirty hallway of a space station. His family would never know what happened to him. Then something strange happened. Inside his mind, he remembered Hana on the observation deck. He remembered how she stood on one leg, perfectly balanced. He remembered how she raised her arms and closed her eyes and breathed slowly. He remembered how calm she looked, how strong, how unafraid. And he remembered what she had taught him, not the combat moves. He knew now that yoga was not really fighting. Hana had explained that to him weeks ago, but she had also taught him something else. She had taught him about breath, about focus, about finding stillness inside chaos. When you feel scared, she had told him once, breathe deep. Feel your feet on the ground. Remember that you are stronger than you think. Tellus took a deep breath. He felt his feet on the cold metal floor. He straightened his back and raised his forearms. Then he moved into tree pose. It was not a good tree pose. His balance was terrible. His form was wrong. But he stood on one leg and raised his arms above his head, just like Hana did every morning. The Krath stopped laughing. They stared at him with confusion. "What are you doing?" the leader asked. Tellus did not answer. He shifted into warrior pose. He spread his legs wide and bent one knee. He stretched his arms out to the sides. His muscles shook with effort. "I am trained," he said. His voice was still afraid, but there was something new in it. Something hard. "I am trained in the human combat art of yoga." The Krath exchanged looks. They had heard stories about humans. Everyone had heard stories. Humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They hunted monsters for fun. They could run for days without rest. They healed from wounds that would kill anyone else. And their combat arts were legendary. "You are lying," the leader said. But he did not sound sure anymore. Perhaps, Tellus replied. He held his pose. His legs screamed with pain. Would you like to find out? For a long moment, nobody moved. The Krath stared at Tellus. Tellus stared back at them. Sweat dripped down his blue face. Then the leader stepped backward. This is not worth the trouble, he growled. Come on, we're leaving. The Krath turned and walked away. They disappeared into the crowd. Tellus stayed in warrior pose for 10 more seconds. Then his legs gave out and he fell to the floor. He sat there, breathing hard, unable to believe what had just happened. He had faced the Krath, and he had won. When Taeyong finally arrived, running with his hand on his weapon, he found Tellus sitting on the ground with a strange smile on his face. What happened? Taeyong asked. Are you hurt? Tellus looked up at him. I used yoga, he said. It saved my life. Taeyong had no idea what that meant. But he helped Tellus stand up and walked him back to the ship. That night, the story spread through the entire station. A Valori had faced down a group of Krath using a secret human fighting technique. The galaxy would never be the same. A simple yoga session accidentally taught aliens a martial art. Part 4. Hana heard the story from Mira that same night. She was in her room, getting ready for bed, when Mira knocked on her door. You need to hear this, Mira said. Her face showed a mix of worry and amusement. Something happened with Tellus today. Hana listened as Mira told her everything about the Krath, about the danger, about how Tellus had stood on one leg in the middle of a space station and claimed to know human combat arts. He did tree pose? Hana said. She could not believe it. In front of the Krath? And warrior pose, Myra nodded. He told them he was trained in yoga. They ran away. Hana sat down on her bed. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. Tellus could have been killed. If the Krath had called his bluff, they would have torn him apart. Tree pose would not have saved him from that. I need to talk to him, she said. She found Tellus in the ship's botanical garden. This was her favorite place on the ship, full of plants and flowers from Earth and other worlds. Tellus was sitting on a bench under a small tree. He was staring at his hands. Tellus, Hana said softly. She sat down next to him. He looked up at her. His purple eyes were wet with emotion. I deceived them, he said. I used your sacred practice as a threat. I pretended to know something I do not know. I am deeply sorry. Hana took his hand. It was thin and cool, so different from a human hand. Tellus, yoga is not a martial art, she said gently. I need you to understand this. It's exercise. It's meditation. It helps humans relax and stay healthy. We don't use it to fight. Tellus blinked. But the warrior poses, the strength, the discipline. The word warrior is just a name, Hana explained. It comes from old human stories. The poses are supposed to make you feel strong and brave, but they're not actual fighting moves. Tellus was quiet for a long moment. He stared at the ground. Hana worried that she had hurt his feelings. So I lied to the Krath, he said finally. I told them I could fight when I cannot. You did something more important than fighting, Hana said. You stood up to them. You did not run away. You made yourself look big and confident when you were terrified inside. That takes real courage, but it was all fake. The poses meant nothing. Hana shook her head. No, the poses helped you. They gave you something to do with your body. They helped you control your fear. They gave you focus when your mind wanted to panic. Tellus thought about this. She was right. When he had moved into tree pose, his mind had stopped racing. When he held warrior pose, he had felt stronger. Not physically stronger, but mentally stronger. Emotionally stronger. You didn't defeat the Krath with yoga, Hana continued. You defeated them with your own courage. Yoga just helped you find that courage inside yourself. A small smile appeared on Tellus's face. The breathing, he said. I remembered what you taught me about breathing. Deep and slow. It helped me think clearly. That's the real power of yoga, Hana said. Not the poses. The breath. The focus. The ability to stay calm when everything is chaos. They sat together in the garden for a while. The artificial sunlight was soft and warm. The smell of flowers filled the air. Will you teach me more? Tellus asked. Properly this time? Not as a fighting art, but as what it truly is. Hana smiled. I would love that. The next morning, something unusual happened on the observation deck. Hana arrived for her practice and found Tellus waiting for her. He had a mat. It was made for velory bodies, thin and soft to protect his delicate bones. I am ready, he said. Hana felt happiness warm her heart. She had never had a student before. She had never shared her practice with anyone. This felt special. We start with the breath, she said. Sit down. Cross your legs. Close your eyes. Tellus did as she said. His forearms rested on his knees. Now breathe in slowly, Hana instructed. Count to 4. Feel your chest expand. Feel the air fill your body. Tellus breathed in. His thin chest rose. Now breathe out slowly. Count to 4 again. Let all the air leave your body. Let all the tension leave with it. Tellus breathed out. His shoulders dropped. Some of the worry left his face. They practiced breathing for 10 minutes. Just breathing, nothing else. When they finished, Tellus opened his eyes. They were brighter than before. I feel different, he said. Lighter, calmer. That's how it starts, Hana said. Tomorrow we will try some simple poses, nothing too hard. We will find what works for your body. The word spread through the ship. Other Velory heard that Tellus was learning yoga. They were curious. They wanted to learn 2 within a week. Hana had 5 students. Within a month, she had 12. Every Velory on the ship came to her morning sessions. She had to change the poses for them. Their bodies were different from human bodies. They could not hold weight the same way. Their balance was harder to control. But she found ways to adapt. She created new poses that worked for hollow bones and forearms. And slowly, something wonderful began to happen. The Velory started to change. They stood a little taller. They spoke a little louder. They seemed less afraid of the galaxy around them. The yoga was not making them stronger in their bodies, but it was making them stronger in their minds. It was giving them confidence. It was giving them peace. And that, Hana realized, was worth more than any martial art. A simple yoga session accidentally taught aliens a martial art part. 1 year had passed since the incident at Relay Station 9. The story had traveled far and wide across the galaxy. Everyone had heard about the brave Velory who faced down the Krath using a secret, human technique, but the story had changed as it traveled. Each person who told it added something new. By now, the tale was almost unrecognizable. Some said that Tellus had defeated 10 Krath warriors with a single pose. Others claimed that humans could kill with just their breath. A few stories even said that yoga masters could stop time itself. None of this was true, of course. But it did not matter. The galaxy believed it. The Velory homeworld sent a formal request to Earth. They wanted yoga teachers. Thousands of Velory wanted to learn the art that had saved Tellus. They wanted the strength and courage that came with it. Other species made similar requests. The Mori, a peaceful race of traders, asked for instructors. The Kelwin, tiny creatures who lived in asteroid colonies, wanted to learn breathing techniques. Even some Krath, secretly and shamefully, asked if humans would teach them. The Galactic Council held a special meeting to discuss this strange new development. Representatives from 100 worlds gathered in a great hall. The humans have shared many things with the galaxy, said the council leader, an old and wise being from a world near the center of the galaxy. They have shared their technology. They have shared their medicine. They have shared their music and art. But this gift, this yoga, may be their greatest contribution of all. Hana watched the broadcast from the bright star. She was sitting in the observation deck with her students around her. 15 Valori sat on their mats, breathing slowly, listening to the council meeting. "I can't believe this is happening," she whispered to Myra, who had come to watch. "You should believe it," Myra said. "You started something incredible." "I didn't start anything. I was just doing my morning stretches." "Sometimes," Tella said from his mat, "the greatest changes begin with the smallest actions." The council decided to create a new program. They called it the Galactic Wellness Initiative. Human yoga teachers would travel to different worlds and teach their practice. The program would be funded by all member species. Hana was asked to lead the program. She said no at first. She was just a plant scientist. She was not qualified to lead anything. But the council insisted. Telos insisted. Even the captain of the Bright Star insisted. Finally, Hana agreed that her first assignment was the Krath homeworld. This scared her more than anything. The Krath were dangerous and violent. They had tried to hurt Telos. How could she teach yoga to creatures like that? But she went anyway. She landed on a gray, rocky planet under a red sun. A group of Krath warriors met her at the landing pad. They looked at her with their small, dark eyes. "You are the yoga master," one of them said. It was not a question. "I'm a yoga teacher," Hana corrected him. "Not a master, just a teacher." "Teach us," the Krath said. "We want to learn." Hana looked at these huge armored creatures. They could crush her with one hand. They could break her bones like twigs. But they were standing before her, asking to learn. "Sit down," she said. "Cross your legs. Close your eyes." The Krath looked at each other. This was not what they expected. They thought they would learn kicks and punches. They thought they would learn to fight like humans. But they sat down anyway. They crossed their thick legs. They closed their small eyes. "Now breathe in slowly," Hana said. "Count to 4. Feel the air enter your body." The Krath breathed in. Their massive chests expanded. "Now breathe out slowly. Count to 4 again. Let all the anger leave your body. Let all the violence flow out with the air." The Krath breathed out. Some of them made sounds of confusion. This felt strange. This felt wrong. But also, somehow, it felt good that Hana taught them for 3 hours that first day. She showed them simple poses. She taught them about balance and focus. She talked about finding peace inside themselves. The Krath listened. They tried their best. They fell over and got back up. They failed and tried again. By the end of the session, something had shifted. The Krath were not peaceful creatures. They never would be. But they had learned something new. They had learned that strength did not always mean violence. They had learned the power could come from stillness. 3 years later, Hana stood on the observation deck of a new ship. This ship was much bigger than the Bright Star. It carried a crew of humans. Valori, Krath, and dozens of other species. She rolled out her mat. The same warm blue mat she had brought from Earth. Behind her, 300 beings of different shapes and sizes rolled out their own mats. The galaxy had changed. It was still a dangerous place. There was still war and conflict. Species still argued and fought. But something was different now. Every morning, on 1,000 worlds, millions of beings sat down on mats. They closed their eyes. They breathed in and breathed out. They found stillness in the chaos. They found courage in the breath. Hana led them through sun salutations. She moved slowly so everyone could follow. A tiny Kelwing next to her struggled to keep up. A massive craft behind her held warrior pose with surprising grace. A Valori with 4 arms stretched them toward the stars visible through the windows. When the session ended, Hana lay in corpse pose. She thought about that morning, years ago, when she had done yoga alone on the observation deck of a small ship. She thought about Tellus watching her through the doorway. She had never meant to change the galaxy. She had just wanted to stretch and breathe and find some peace before work. But sometimes, she thought, the universe has its own plans. She opened her eyes and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, on a space station called Relay Station 9, a group of young Krath were practicing tree pose. They wobbled and fell. They got back up and tried again. And deep in their warrior hearts, they felt something new. They felt calm. Hana smiled and rolled up her mat. Tomorrow, she would teach again. And the day after that. And the day after that. For as long as the galaxy wanted to learn. Because in the end, it was never about the poses. It was never about the strength, or the balance, or the flexibility. It was about the breath. It was about the stillness. It was about finding peace in a universe full of chaos. And that, Hana knew, was something every being in the galaxy needed. Even if it all started with a simple misunderstanding about yoga. The end.